Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Yashwendra Singh, Executive Editor of ETCIO, and I welcome you all to this top of the mind session on empowering manufacturing with data-driven intelligent edge, organized jointly by ETCIO, HPE Aruba, and Inflow Technologies, which is a premium partner of HPE Aruba. In this era of data at the edge, it's clear that today's network architecture needs to be AI powered and predictive for it to cope with the massive amounts of data and decisions required in near real time. Given the importance of capitalizing on the opportunities at the edge, it's critical for businesses to ensure that they have the right network foundation. The future of manufacturing enterprises is connected, automated, and digitally driven. IT technology leaders from this vertical will therefore have to build a network that helps to optimize operations, improve product quality, and worker productivity. In this session today, we have with us leading technology leaders from the manufacturing vertical who will discuss how does the next gen network help in business growth and what does it take to implement it. So without any more ado, please allow me to introduce our panelists of the day. Mr. Jitendra Singh, CIO JK Cement, Mr. Ranganathan Iyer, Group CIO JBM Group, Mr. Milind Khamkar, Group CIO at Supermax, and Mr. Abir Banerjee, National Business Manager at HPE Aruba. Welcome, gentlemen. I'll set the ball rolling with Mr. Jitendra Singh. Sir, why and how is networking the foundation of the intelligent edge? We all realize that harnessing the power of data reveals insights that can be acted upon locally to accelerate decision making, improve operational efficiency, and transform business models. But what role does network play here and how? Your thoughts here, sir.
Hi, Yashwin, and thank you for making me a part of this panel. Yashwin, to be very precise, we are working in a connected world today. And how does that connection happen? The foundation remains that it is the network. So in fact, unless you have a network, you cannot connect. Unless you have a good network, you cannot work seamlessly. Unless you have a smart and intelligent network, you cannot scale up or scale down with respect to the application load or the load at a respective site. And so networks, how important is actually, it is a necessity. The question of importance for me does not occur at all. It's actually without it, nothing else happens. Even as we are speaking right now, it's because of network only.
Sure.
So that is why. And when we go to the manufacturing side, getting connected, having the customer, the production line, the sales and marketing team, the corporate office, the MIS guys, everything needs to be seamlessly connected so that the real-time impact can be visualized, acted upon, and you can increase the revenue portion of it and decrease the damages.
Right, sir. Great thoughts there, sir. I'll come to Mr. Iyer now. Mr. Iyer, do you agree with Jitendra sir there when he says, network is the lifeblood of any organization, and simply there's no question of whether it being important or not. Your thoughts here, sir.
Why this is more important in the manufacturing scenario? Today we are connecting machines. We are drawing intelligence using AI, ML, so-called glorified terms. That is possible only when you have the data. For example, if you want to do a prediction, then you need to have the data 365 days on continuous basis without break. That is number one. What is going to happen for future? Today, the data is being consumed and the business intelligence layer we are using and then drawing some results out of it. Tomorrow, it is going to back to the machine and then control the machine. Yeah, it is not going to happen immediately, but for future, it is going to happen. It is going to happen for future for sure, maybe in 1 to 2 years time. So if you are not having, why this is required? Because the best of the configuration, if you get the right productivity, these things should be there. If you want a machine to perform right, you have to have this temperature. So setting that back from the intelligence tool to the machine is, unless and until we have this as a layer, we cannot, we will die otherwise. The business advantage will you will be eliminated from business if it is not there.
Sure, sure. Great. Mr. Khamkar, your comments here, sir?
Good afternoon.
Like Mr. Iyer just said, none of these technologies would make any impact on business unless you have a solid network. Sir.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you, Yash and ET, for giving this opportunity and connecting people during this pandemic time. I think intelligence in isolation is useless, is unheard of. When you're calling intelligence, it has to be spreading, it has to be fluid, and the fluidity is possible only when it is connected. Same applies for the network. In the connected world, when we are talking data is a new oils, the intelligence is required for taking actions. I think it is possible only when you have a good and stable network. By far, design manufacturing is a very complex place to set the stable network. It is spread over the miles and acres with a lot of hurdles. You will not find the density of the users at one place. They are spread miles together. And in that case, unless they are exchanging their data or exchanging the informations in the real-time basis, it is unproductive, because actions has to be there at the point, and it will happen only when the data and the machines are connected with each other with the seamless network. So I agree with Jitendra and Iyer on their point of view, why it is important to have a network.
Great. Let me come to Abir now. Abir, do you echo the sentiments of all our three panelists? And what do you hear from other CIOs when you talk about the importance of network in their businesses?
Thank you. Thank you, firstly, for inviting me as well into this event. I think in a post-pandemic scenario, I think while my earlier three speakers did speak about the importance of network, but I would presume that never ever, right, would have been a requirement of a network as it is today. I think networks has taken center stage in this post, whether you say post, whether we have reached that post stage or the second stage or the COVID stage, but whatever it be, I think there has been a transformation in the way we are trying to do our business, right? And when we talk about networks, and especially when networks have taken center stage, in particularly in this period, right, to run the business, it's very important, the way Mr. Jitendra mentioned, that a network by itself has no meaning unless it is a good network, right? And therefore, there has to be a definition of a good network. That's what we bring a relevance, and as I move forward in this whole discussion, we'll bring some caveats, bring some perspective to that particular point. But a very interesting point today, and especially for this particular industry in particular, where operations technology plays a very important role, right? Me being in this IT space for years, right? I think never ever would have been a requirement of an IT-OT convergence felt more than it is today, because the users are somewhere, the operators are somewhere, the machines are somewhere, and the data resides somewhere, right? We're trying to have one integrated framework to connect the users, the devices, the things, which could be lying somewhere else, the data center, the corporate office, the branch offices, right? And therefore, we need to consider a network, not only as a network which sort of connects the corporate office with the branches. I think that has completely dissolved. And we are talking about a network that has to connect right up to our homes, right? And I think I'll talk more about it, but I'd like to keep this perspective right at the stage for now.
Sure. Great, Abir, thanks. Let me come back to Mr. Jitendra Singh. Sir, I would love to hear your perspective on Industry 4.0. And as a CIO, how do you visualize your ICT infrastructure aligning to Industry 4.0?
Actually, a great question and a very appropriate time, Yashwin, because as we speak, we are working on these lines. And the first revelation to me was, I've been involved in certain, we did not have this term called Industry 4 earlier, but yes, instrumentation department and others, we've been trying to connect with them in my previous assignments. And but right now what has happened is, with this IoT coming into picture and machines talking to machines, earlier it was essentially HMIs, in fact, human machine interface, and getting certain inputs from the machines through the microcontrollers, VLCs, and then displaying that data. As we speak, we have the requirements like the machine actually sends the communication to the machine in front of that and the machine preceding that as well. Number one. Second is we need somebody who can actually manage the scenario from wherever they are and whenever it is desired. Third is there is a very good requirement for the leadership team to connect these two spaces, which is the sales and marketing, which includes logistics as well, and the production data. So what happens is to make it a reality today and do away from the uploading of Excel files from the production data to the commercial system or vice versa to arrive at a figure, you need a real-time connectivity. For that, and that actually, when I said I had a revelation that most of my plants were not even ready to be connected. Now we realize that we need to upgrade our systems at the OT space. We need to bring it to a platform wherein both systems, IT and OT, can handshake. And for that, the biggest gap came around that one is the essential devices are not there. Second is the security is not there at all. So I cannot expose my production system to an outside world wherein I can afford a downtime of, maybe, though that's also not affordable today, but still, compared to production system, I cannot put the plant at stake that, yes, okay, if we have an outage at plant, we are okay with it. I cannot say that. For commercial systems, it can maybe wait for half an hour or 1 hour, but production cannot.
Sure.
So these are the certain things which we are grappling with. And then, of course, if we need to have a very finer control over the machinery or OT, we need to have a data network or a network layer which is secured as well as robust enough to actually cater to the requirements. I cannot afford a packet leakage there.
Great inputs there, sir. I'll come to Mr. Iyer again, sir. The technology used on shop floors has moved at a rapid pace. Manufacturing leaders believe that IoT will further transform the future of their business. So this is actually what Industry 4.0 is all about. With everything getting connected, how can the network be ramped up to keep pace with these developments? Your thoughts on Industry 4.0 and your preparation with respect to your enterprise to this new trend?
Very, very interesting and relevant question. Why? Because fortunately, we are just gone four of our plants fully integrated. Number one, I would like to emphasize if you are going for Industry 4.0, it is a nomenclature, because in auto industry, if you look into for ages, we are having collecting data from PLC, collecting data from SCADA and all. We were drawing some good intelligence out of it, but we never termed it as something automation or yes, this Industry 4.0, this wave has brought us certain cost benefits, because the hardware part of it is really helping us collecting the right data which is not available, which were not available earlier. That's number one. Number two, we never go out from plant as far Industry 4.0 is concerned. Why? Because we wanted the security on the topmost priority. But we are embracing cloud for selected data which is being sent to the cloud, so that we can do a management view of that particular plant or particular region or a particular business kind of groups. For that, what data is required, by transporting that data from my on-prem to the cloud, the requirement of this latency or maybe the online kind of data transfer, which is not required for taking some business like decisions. So we have ensured the security as the prime pillar, so that we have constructed a separate LAN network only for machine connectivity, which is not mingling into any of our surveillance or to that normal transactional systems which we are connected already. So this is point number one, to safeguard the machines, to ensure the machine and productivity is not lost because of so-called virus or maybe the threat, etc. And we are embracing cloud by way of collecting data, selective data, to do the mining part for us to improve.
Sure.
So we have taken care of both security and ensured that what is required as business decision maker, both are balanced.
Right. Mr. Khamkar.
It's an exciting time for manufacturing because after the very long period of time, IT is getting space in OT, and which is happening because of the IoT. Otherwise, the most of the OT related automations or OT related enhancement was done with the specific intent of manufacturing the product. Now, with the introductions and the amalgamation of IT and OT together with the IoT, there is a new horizon is getting open, which has been surfaced a lot during the lockdown or pandemic time. Everything is possible remotely, but not manufacturing, and that will not be possible if we limit ourselves with the use of technology. Most of the manufacturers are now looking at IoT as a new answers to the old solutions, old questions. And how to manage the dependency on site and how to improve the work-life balance for the people associated with this operation. Now, IoT is bringing that. It's not a very new term, it's an old term. And Industry 4.0 is also there for quite some time. But pandemic has given this scope for the people to think of it with a new perspective. For the manufacturing organizations, unless you manufacture the product, you can't survive. And a pandemic has shown that, when there was absolute lockdown, nothing was allowed to move. Even getting the limited people to site and make sure that we have that production numbers or norms achieved was little difficult. Now with the Industry 4.0 and the introductions of the IT OT together, it's going to possible, and that's the new area which we are exploring. How to ensure that if similar situation, God forbidden, it should not happen. But if it happens, then how to make sure that the business continue? Because lockdown for certain period of time is disaster for the manufacturing. You are absolutely out of your business, because once the customer lose the sight of your product, the product availability is not in the market. It takes a huge amount of efforts and the time to gain back that confidence again. So for me, Industry 4.0, which was just the theory some months back, year back, is now reality for the most of the manufacturer. It's a business is looking for. Otherwise, in manufacturing, the machines are not replaced beyond its ventilator age. We always retire the machines, or we always upgrade the machines, computers, for the mention or define age. But there are still certain machines are with the XP OS, which is getting addressed by Industry 4.0, because uptime production is very, very critical for the manufacturing unit.
Sure, sir. Great inputs, great thoughts there. Abir?
I think, this concept of Industry 4.0, and I think almost all the earlier speakers would have mentioned, not that it's something new to the industry, right? I have personally been interacting with at least the Nalcos and Tata Steels right from the earlier century. And I think this interoperability between the IT network and OT network is not that it is something new. I think the SCADA networks existed, the DCA networks existed for years and years. I think the one big change that has happened is that many of the devices have gone headless. What it essentially means that wired has been replaced by wireless. And the moment wireless comes into play, I think it gives us one benefit. The benefit is that the user need not follow the network will follow the user, right? I'm just going by the Vodafone tagline. That's what has happened. And therefore, IoT has also taken a boost because if I'm talking about mushrooming of IoT, right, it would need flexibility and operability from any location, any place. But at the same time, it brings to a point a very interesting element which has to be thought from a security perspective. Because when you are connected on your local area network, the user and the device, right, you would at least feel, or at least perceptionally, you would feel that we are much more secure because you are within the premise, right? The moment we are moving out from the premise into the home, and especially in a post-pandemic era, we will still need to run the business. Even if the world stopped, I think the production did not stop, right? So if you have to look at from that perspective, I think two things that this network needs to achieve, right? And one, we spoke about network, then a good network, and then a smart network. I think we need to go to an era of an autonomous network, right? A self-service network without compromising on security. And that's where contextualization also becomes equally important, right? A very important point also came out around IoT in particular, right? You may define IoT in whichever form, whether it existed or did not exist. But for me, IoT on the OT network is an equally more complex area to address, because most of the IoT sensors would actually be residing on the OT network. Can I get the data out of an OT network into the IT network, mine it, analyze it, and send it back, right? I think 3 or 4 elements, right? And that's what we are trying to take. When I think Mr. Iyer brought out a very interesting point, saying that his machine network is a separate network. Possibly, we need to look into a scenario where can I build up a network which would be able to address data, voice, video, machine learning, surveillance, all in one go, a single network, right? And this is where a network needs to analyze and visualize the devices and the users that are getting connected to it at any point, anytime. And this is where we bring the digital element into an IT network or an ICT network, right? And hence, the readiness of a network to adopt to IT, to AI and ML needs to be relooked into, which essentially takes us to a new domain of discussion, which is around software-defined networking. I'd like to park this discussion here because I think Industry 4.0 and software-defined networking needs to be thought on similar lines.
Sure. Great, Abir. I'll come back to Mr. Jitendra. Sir, you referred to IT and OT convergence. What are your expectations from technology providers to address some of the challenges that you're confronting?
One is, in fact, Abir touched upon a very good point. In fact, SD network is something which is there, and it actually takes care of the redundancies and security of the world as well. But in terms of expectation, is one is Milind spoke about a very, very important point which we need to deep dive into, the OT side of it. There are certain systems which are still running on XP, and they need to graduate to a next level wherein they have to bring up their solutioning to a point wherein it can walk along with the other softwares, and the security piece can be embedded into it, number one. Second is the best expectation would be from the network provider, of course. And the panelists also spoke about the smart network. The network has to be actually smart enough to wave off the noise, which in case of wireless actually is a very critical issue. Then when we say that it moves along with the user, so the strength of the network, or maybe zoning in particular, if I can specify that, so zoning is more important. The seamlessness between the zones also has to happen, because and the most important point is when we embed security into any network or any device, there is some amount of latency, which Iyer actually spoke about very well, and that latency has to be taken care of, because when we are talking about machine to machine interface in this MMI, the response time has to be immediate, and in certain point of time it goes into seconds or microseconds also. That needs to be taken care of. So there are multifold expectations. One is you need to have a robust network in place, which is smart, scalable, which can scale down, scale up, whatever is the need. Then you have the security piece in place. Yes, of course, DCS and SCADAs of the world were there, but they were actually defined or constrained within the plant periphery only. So now we are moving out of it. then you need to have the solutioning coming in from the OT space, wherein they graduate or they upgrade their systems, wherein they are in line with the systems which are outside available commercially, because now everything is ubiquitous. So it's no more that I am working in an OT space, so I don't need to be in line with what others are working on. And it's, I can give an analogy onto that if I have to speak to Yashwendra, then I have to speak to Yashwendra in his language, and vice versa also. I cannot speak in some language which you don't understand, or in some old version of it. So those are the expectations which largely are gaps which need to be full on, because we are moving towards industry 5, and wherein these gaps still exist.
Sure, sir. Abir, would you like to take up some of the issues that Mr. Singh just pointed out? How are you bridging that gap?
He raised a few points, specifically expectations around latency, because I would presume that in a manufacturing industry, and I did mention it in some of my earlier sessions also, that we were talking to one of the railway departments, and we were talking about SLAs, right? And we were saying about 5 nines, 6 nines. I think the first question that came out is that, can the railways survive with a 5.9, right? I think it needs 100%. And I think in today's world, you would need a 100% expectation, right? In terms of availability, uptime, latency, whatever you call it, right? I think another important point also that becomes relevant, right? As a technology provider or as a service provider is, again, referring back to the pandemic era, I think, is that there are two things that has happened. One is a work from home is becoming a reality, which is getting integrated into the business compliance of any organization. And equally important is the return to office, right? We cannot live with an era, right, for months and months with the work from home situation, right? And me coming from an ITS company, I might still say that, yes, we would love to do it. But I think for all my three speakers here, I don't think they can live with a scenario where there will not be any worker on the plant, right? It has to happen. So there has to be a confidence that has to be given to the workers, the staff who are coming back. The network needs to address both these aspects. How can I make it contextual? How can the network be, I wouldn't say monetized, but can I build up a use case on the same network so that I can at least track and trace, right? And build up some sort of a contract tracing solution, because come what be, I think the contract tracing will become ingrained into your business compliance for sure, sir, right? Coming back to the latency piece of it, I think a very important aspect, a new terminology is again evolving, right, in the networking parlance, which is around AI ops. We have all built our large networks, right? And especially when we talk about a wireless network, right? I think wireless has now become a de facto standard of network connectivity more than Ethernet, while we do also believe that the network switches do exist behind the wireless network. But a very important aspect that really comes to play, especially when we are adopting to a wireless network, is the discussion around security. Can the wireless network give me the same levels of security as the wired network, right? As a technology provider, my job is to give that confidence back to all the users, right, and all the CIOs, is that can I build one single framework of management and one single framework of security to address connectivity of users and devices and things, either over a wireless network or over a wired network or over the WAN, or even if this person is connected from the home or from a railway station. Just a case in hand. When I'm in my office connected with my office PC or laptop, right, I would presume, or the CIO or the CISO would presume that it's a very safe way of connecting. But with the same person, right, when I'm connecting from my home or from a railway station, and obviously in a pandemic era, I still need to get connected to the same sort of applications that I'm getting connected from office. Can I get that confidence? Can the network would have that learning capabilities within itself, that based on the profile of the entry of a device or a user, can I determine the health of the device or the user? And then I can take the necessary corrective action. So that's what I would like to say, that it is to answer to Mr. Jitendra's question, especially around latency and contextuality. Yeah.
Sure, Abir. Mr. Khamkar, we would love to know your thoughts on what role can AI ops play in proactively managing the network?
I think AI is a lot of scope, because end devices are getting intelligent, smart, And in that case, the network has to be strong to support the smartness and the intelligence. We are trying to shrink the latency by the edge computing. We are bringing the compute close to the decision making and close to the data collection centers. The sensors are adding complexities to that. The decisions or the insight are expected in a ZP manner. There is no scope for delaying it and becoming the reactive. In this case, the human brain limitations will be always there, and that limitations will be overcome or is getting overcome by the artificial intelligence AI. What is required for us is a simple, pragmatic, and secure setup. We don't want to complicate the already complicated life of the users. And for that, whatever technology or digital support is possible need to be given. The limitations of the human effort can be overcome by the artificial intelligence in terms of the utilizing the mammoth data generated and preserved by the all these technologies.
Sure.
Which is next to impossible if the decision, the analytics is left to the users or left to the human brain. And that's what expected from AI. And I think AI is fulfilling that gap.
Sure, sir. So Abir, while network management systems have evolved over the years, they continue to fall short of delivering proactive operations and optimization, key requirement for today's manufacturing organizations. Do you see, as Mr. Kamkar just said, AI Ops playing a very critical role there?
I think that's where HP Aruba is also, we have done a lot of innovations in the space, and I like to bring over a few use cases, right? Especially in the space of AI Ops, right? I think, as I was saying that the network has been built, everything is built, right? Now comes the question of the operations part of it, right? And when it comes to operations, I think it's a given that, the amount of focus that a technology, a service provider would give into the project implementation, right? Post that, the operation looks to be a bit more mundane. But I think that is where I think our customers would need a bigger perspective, a bigger help, right? And going into that space, if I can automate or digitize the operations part, right? And then the only way to bring more clarity, more transparency, more visibility is to digitize the operations itself, right? Or automate the operations. And that means that lesser physical connections, more of machines to view, visualize, and therefore take the corrective actions. A very interesting aspect, right? And then especially when it comes to networks in particular, right? Whenever there is a network, a Wi-Fi network, and usually we keep all our devices with the Wi-Fi feature enabled in it. The general tendency of any Wi-Fi network is that whichever device it sees, right, and the device would always like to poll that. Especially in a manufacturing plant, right? Do I need all my 1,000 users who have a mobile phone with a Wi-Fi enabled in it to poll the network? Not necessarily. The network should be intelligent enough to know only the registered users, only the known MAC IDs which it should connect to. Just by doing that, and especially this is an observation that we have seen in much bigger projects, especially the smart city projects, right? Is the fact that do I need to take or request of every device? Not necessarily, right? Even passerby, right? Especially in a hotel, even a passerby would like to take and get access to the same Wi-Fi which is in the hotel, right? Just case in hand. So we need to look at it from that perspective, and this is where, again, cloud becomes a very important way of analysis, right? Especially again in this cyber physical interop in an industry 4.0. That can I bring the cloud, which means that you offload. Right now, again, this definition of cloud is also very, skewed in the sense that is cloud a consumption-based model? We should treat it as a consumption-based model. It could be on-prem, it could be off-prem, wherever. But can I bring cloud and cloud-based tools, right, to manage, monitor, and look into the whole network on an ongoing basis? And a very important aspect which many of the CIOs have been talking to us is around root cause analysis, right? RCA. It becomes all the more important, especially when you are out of the office and you're still trying to analyze the network, right? Root cause analysis, I think for me, has not been well defined, right? I think there has to be a system which should always tell you that these are my repeatable problems that would have happened, and therefore do take corrective actions. Usually we have made it very manual. And this is where AI ops or cloud-based management becomes all the more relevant.
Sure, Abir. So we are fast running out of time. So one final question. I'll come to Mr. Abir. Sir, the new normal, manufacturing organizations will have to accelerate decision making, improve operational efficiency, and transform business models. What kind of a network strategy should they have in place to meet all these?
See, there is no predefined answer for this. It all depends on how open you are, number one, how good support you get from the ecosystem is number two. Number three, how confident you are and taking the decision on deploying what you are, what different kinds of solution you are getting. I will take an example of myself. Despite we are ready to do many things at one go, we are still have that fear factor of exposing ourselves to the outside world. If you ask me personally, I am, because it is the machines which are being installed, we are supposed to open it to the manufacturer for resolving the issues. It clearly shows that I am open to the outside world. At any point of time, I am opening myself for more problems. It doesn't mean that I should not open myself. How secured I am, number one, how the ecosystem is going to help me, or what kind of people I am looking around in the ecosystem. That is going to play a vital role. Number three is post-deployment, how good we are in following the SOPs. For example, if I'm inevitable to open myself to the outside world, it means I'm going to protect myself. There may be a number of solutions available in the market, but there are certain standard process we have to follow so that we are damaged less. So these three will put together, and with your kind of knowledge base, it differs company to company. Sure. I'm not trying to give a very standard solution. This is the state of mind which I have today. Although we have seen certain agencies coming and extending their hands to resolve some of the problems, we are taking a slow decision because it is more related to the manufacturing process. So solutions are available, number one. The confidence of getting it converted into reality, there is a fear factor. Number three, we wanted the manufacturing to have the final say than of technology giving a final say. So this is the kind of frame of mind which I have today, which I have illustrated.
Sure. Great, sir. Abir, what kind of a network strategy should CIOs adopt, going forward? It'll be great if you can also, deliver your presentation.
So I'm just sharing the screen, and I think it's almost like a summarization of whatever we all spoke. I'll just take around 10 minutes to just cover up the way we are doing it, and especially coming from Hewlett Packard Enterprise Aruba. We have been talking about the network, and the network becomes all the more relevant when we look at from an edge perspective, because that's what the activity is. And I think, again, going by Mr. Iyer, he mentioned that focus on manufacturing, and manufacturing is the edge of the network, right? So let's look at the network from an edge perspective, right? And edge is where the data gets generated, which goes to the core or to the cloud, right? And in between you have a network. So network is the delivery wing, right? To deliver the services that's getting created either at the edge or being processed in the core, right? And with that, I think we did discuss Industry 4.0, right? The present to the future, especially when we talk about future. Industry 4.0 always comes up as a 4-point of discussion, right? And I think a few of the use cases, right, when it comes from a digital transformation perspective, I did I could not cover all, but for example, if you're talking about ERP integrations, right? Onboarding devices, especially, right? And when the devices are not in your premise, right? Or the collaboration tools, right? And especially I have been seeing this and observing this again, after we sort of opened up our offices from October, November, December, right? We have been heavily dependent on unified collaboration tools, right? Teams, Zoom, etc. The way we are doing it, right? And almost everybody is into it. I think the network needs to look into this perspective. And we have been addressing this point. We are talking with Microsoft and with Zoom and all, and there are a lot of bugs that got created, which has been rectified from all ends, right? I think another important point is around, needless to say, is around this IoT and the analysis that we can create. I will just touch upon this, right? And that goes back to that same point that the production floor staff are experts in their domain and not in IT, right? Let them do what they're supposed to do, and IT has to run transparently behind them. IT should be the aid, or the ICT network should be the aid, right? This also brings another relevant point that the expectations are also very different, right, from what we would have seen earlier, because there is a dependency, and network or the ICT has taken center stage. So the end users will have a certain expectation, right, which is around that the network should be able to deliver them as per the SLAs that they would need, right? The line of business becomes very important, because the network should also be able to give you certain analytical data, right, which was the line of business or the business leaders or the product leaders can devise their strategies, right? Can the network evolve, can you use the network for monetization perspective? And the IT operations or the IT operators needs to see that the uptime, that the network is running with full perfection, right? Especially when it's connected to the manufacturing network, right? And then finally, the CISO also comes into play, right? The security also cannot be ignored, right? Now, with this, these are some of the challenges that we would have seen, right? That the IoT systems are actually vulnerable to attacks, right? Let's face it, that IoT was meant only for visibility perspective, not for security. The more of IoT sensors and devices that we bring into a network, they are open to security threats, right? The network should be self-healing and self-learning to address that. Second is the contextualization. Can I create location-based services, right? Location-based services like asset tracking, right? Real-time location tracking, right? Especially, right, in a production environment. Can I get the transport at the point of time when I need the transport to be taken from shed 1 to shed 2? And third, I think we discussed in this session itself about the legacy systems, right? How can the legacy systems coexist, right? Because you cannot throw them away. That goes back to that same discussion around the conflict of the IT and OT, because while they're conflicting chapters, because an IT network will look at security as the most important relevant point, while the OT or the chief operator, the CEO's responsibility will always be towards production, right? I think these two needs to be weighed out, right? And that is where the discussion goes, that if you can bridge the gap between the IT and OT network, can only happen if you can address that one layer of security that comes in, and most importantly, visibility of the end devices across the OT network. With that, I think we would like to take it and just move forward, because especially when you're working from home and all, right? One thing is given, that you cannot ignore that broadband network that gets connected to your home. I think all of us, even right now, are either connected on a 3G, 4G network or on that broadband network. And yet, I think we should all acknowledge that this quality of this calls that are going on in this call itself has been pretty decent, pretty reasonable, right? Broadband brings with its own unpredictability of performance, but the network should be self-healing, should be defined or software defined to address the broadband limitations and still give you the quality of service. And especially in a dissolving perimeter, I think the perimeters have completely been washed away, right? As I told you, the data center is in the cloud and the office is in the home, right? Therefore, the security has to be looked from a different perspective, from a contextualization angle, based on your physical presence, based on the device that you're using. That's specifically what we said, and this is what we had lived with. And a very important fourth point that comes into play is a discussion around as a service. As you start running your own core business and you would like to run the operations to be given up to somebody, right, which could be inward or outward looking, but the operations in an operations phase, you would like to see it in as a service model, right? Which means that with a limited finance or a limited budget, can I still be able to achieve? Can the network help me reduce my cost and yet help me deliver my productivity in a better way? right? And this is where we say that the network has to do more. And when we talk about the edge or the edge of the network, I think in a dissolving perimeter scenario, the LAN, WAN, and security, all three needs to be transformed in one go, right? So the data center, the people, the cloud, and the things are the four elements that the network connects. And with that, this is what we have been doing, right? And this is what we started doing it. I will just touch upon a very interesting aspect, right? Rather than moving into the components, right? Is what we have brought out a framework of a edge services platform, right? Now look at an edge services platform. And as I mentioned, that the users, because the users are the ones that those who gets connected to the network, and the machines or the devices are the ones that get connected to the network. There is nothing else beyond this, right? And when I talk about devices, it is also the IoT devices. An IoT device could be an IoT sensor, it could be a non-IT device also, printer, camera, right? Because these are devices which you cannot authenticate them by normal user ID password means, right? So therefore you have to determine them based on their MAC ID, which means that if at any point of time from a network you have just removed a printer and you have connected something else with the same IP address, the network should be able to address the change that has happened centrally, either from the cloud or from your data center, just by dint of the MAC ID that gets connected, which means that the network should also learn that if this is a MAC ID, this MAC ID could belong to a CCTV camera from maybe Axis or whatever, right? So this is where we need to learn and constantly learn, and deep learning becomes a very important aspect of networks, right? So as I told you, but let's move forward, right? Any network will have an infrastructure at the base, right? It could be wired, wireless, software-defined network, a WAN, etc. But the network should also address the policy definition or the policy enforcement. At any point of time, you insert a device or a user, the policy has to be enforced, which means that it has to comply with the compliances laid down by your organization, right? And then comes the question of AI ops, right? In an AI ops, which is in the use cases, right? If you would like to look into it, one has to be around zero touch provisioning, which means that if I connect a network, the network should auto configure itself, right? I don't need to reconfigure, right? Which means that there was a time that we used to create so many VLANs. Just a case in hand, right? If you connect, if I say that this is a printer gets connected into the network should automatically know it's a printer, and based on that printer, it knows that it is an IoT device or a sensor. I put it into a IoT segment. If the network knows that at any point of time that a person entering the network is a guest, I will place that person into the guest role or the guest segment, which means that the person will only get access to internet and nothing else. If I know that this user is defined as a VIP user or a senior management, can I put him into a senior management profile, which means that all the policies, which means that the MPLS link 1 should be assigned to the VIP user or the senior management, and MPLS link 2 could be for the other users, and MPLS link 3 could be the contractors or for the outsiders who are coming into the network. And then comes the question that can I use location services, right? Or asset tracking as a service? And I will just come into it in a very interesting way, use case, right? Yeah. This is where we say a network is not for connection. As we move around into the smarter networks, we are talking about protecting the network. And as we move into the self-healing, self-provisioning networks, that is where analysis and act has to come, right? The network cannot be considered only from a connect perspective, right? I will just touch upon a few other points, right? And this is a very interesting aspect, right? Especially around AI ops, right? I think while we discussed it, solving network issues proactively, right? Can I get to know that a network might go down based on the load that it is addressing? Can I get to know the utilization of a network at any point of time? And based on the utilization, can I reroute a part of the traffic into another MPLS link? This is where the whole discussion around software defined comes into play and becomes more relevant. And I have been telling you time and again, I think in an industry 4.0 with IoT being a very important aspect, can I onboard the devices, employees, contractors, everybody? And at any point of time, only at the point of entry, I need to determine the posture, the health of the device, and then I give the necessary policy enforcements to the device, right? For example, if it's a guest, as I told you, the guest should only get access to the guest network and nothing else, which essentially means that I can use one single network for running multiple services, right? One is my corporate data, one could be the SAP data, one could be the surveillance data, and yet I can use one single network rather than depending on individual networks. Important use case, and I just wanted to take this a few points here before I think we are also going towards the end of the session, is that we felt that a network should be able to create a few use cases. Now, today's wireless networks are just not wireless access points, right? They are a platform by themselves. They support, and especially in an era of Wi-Fi 6, right? We are talking about the Wi-Fi should also support BLE or low power Bluetooth. We are using the Bluetooth features of our wireless networks to bring location tracking into relevance, which essentially means that if I give a tag or a beacon to the end user, and the user and that beacon or that tag, you just need to connect it with your identity card. It just looks like a coin, right? I think you can see it, one of them in the beginning. And as the person moves around, you will be able to do a live map, right? All I need is the floor plan or the floor map from you, which we will put into our cloud-based platform. And tomorrow, when you are connecting either with your mobile or with the tag, as you move, I'll be able to figure out the movement. Now, what it does, it is actually almost an Ola or an Uber-like experience, but within the premises of the corporate, right? Because you can't have a GPS connectivity in a corporate in the building because the accuracy is not there. Bluetooth is known for its accuracy, right? It can take accuracy up to 1 meter or 2 meter. Now, what we have done, we have perfected this. We actually started this during the SARS outbreak in US, and especially in this COVID period, we built up this whole model, right? This UI, in which I'll be able to do contact tracing. Now, what does it mean? It means that if a person violates the contact tracing norms of WHO, let's say, which could be 2 feet, and for a period of 10 minutes, I'll be able to determine that this person is violated, and I can raise an alarm. Now, that alarm is not a sound or anything. It will just come to you as the administrator. On your map, it might come in, or to the user, it may go as a reminder saying that on the mobile that you are violating the norms, right? So if a person is suspected COVID, you can track back to the historical data for the past 28 days. That's what, again, WHO says. And you can figure out at any point of time in how many times he or she would have violated the social distancing norms, right? That is a very interesting aspect. In fact, using this whole platform, you can create n number of things, especially around employee health, safety, and all, right? Or if you are going to a hospital, if you want to track the devices or track the costly equipments or track the nurse tracking, you can build up many such use cases which have been done. So this is around the return to office. But when I'm talking about a very important aspect, that it is just not about return to office, as I told you, that work from home also becomes equally important, right? In this current scenario, what we are talking about in a work from home is that, let's say you have to lock, stock, and barrel, we have shifted to our homes. Now, if I'm sitting in my home, firstly, I need a wireless access point, just to connect to that same broadband network. But what is the difference, right? If you're just connecting, right, you are not getting any quality of service or class of service. In this particular case, the moment you connect this, right, this access point into your home, it will auto connect itself, because at the point of shipment, we had defined it, this MAC ID, right, is connected to your corporate network. So the moment you connect it, it gets an internet exposure. It will auto connect and will create an IPsec tunnel to your corporate network, and will move into the data center, into the controller. What it gives you, so now when you open your laptop at your home and you just connect to that wireless access point, you will get to see the SSID of your corporate network, which means that if you are working at your office, you are getting access to the corporate SSID. From your home also, you get access to corporate SSID, which essentially means that the moment you have got access to your corporate SSID, now you don't have to create new policies. All the policies that you were using in your office get uploaded or downloaded into your home. Even if you have an IP phone, you can bring your IP phone and connect to this access point. It is an Etherport, right? And because you are getting access to that same SSID, this IP phone will communicate with an Office PBX, which means that your presence is as good as you are in office. Your office desk has moved into your home. right? We have extended it right up to the home. But again, in your home users, your family might say that I would like to access internet. You can split this access point or this device into multiple SSIDs and give them unrestricted, unsecured connection to the internet, and on the other hand, give them a secure access into your corporate SSID. Right? I just
Did we lose him?
I think we've lost Abir there. Yeah, I think there's some network issue at his end. But yeah, that was an amazing presentation. I think I don't see Abir joined yet. So great, gentlemen, that's all we have time for. To sum up today's discussion, if manufacturing enterprises need to survive and thrive in the new normal, they will have to identify and resolve issues quickly, preempting problems before they impact the business. They will have to quickly deploy services at scale to support changing business needs and allow continued infrastructure investment in the face of uncertain financial challenges. To enable all this, the enterprise network will be the bedrock for businesses going forward. With this, we come to the end of this session. Thanks a lot, panelists, for those wonderful insights. And thank you, viewers, for watching this session. Thank you all once again. Stay healthy, stay safe,